chop that. And we'll start with a tube. Bing, bing. Mr. Wazoo, good to see you. And I'm gonna make this thing flat, and we'll just do like a circle, something like that. So yeah, if you want to actually make like a circle with good topology in Houdini, you can do it like that. You can actually use the tube SOP for that. But in this case, I just want to do like a section of a circle. And I'm going to do a kind of like data tree type thing or whatever, a data cylinder. And we'll do the copy and transform. You guys saw they got rid of the copy to points in copy to stamp in Houdini 19.5. They depreciated it. This is my favorite node. And just make some of these disks. I still use it sometimes with the for using it with the font SOP. I think they just wanted people to not it was too confusing maybe to people, or that they thought it was too slow, but I thought it's still useful. Maybe with I would use it with this font, and then I still have it, I think, because I'm in yeah, I saw it in there. So if you do that, and then you do this string here, attribute stamps, you can actually pass attributes that are strings and then have the font SOP pick it up, and it's like the quickest way to wire it together. You can definitely do it in a for loop, but I just feel like to assemble that, it's somewhat tedious. So we'll go back to our cylinders now, and we'll do the add again. Only points. So if you want to get deeper into the logic and stuff of that plexus effect, you can always use this connect adjacent pieces. And this is meant for like RBD networks or constraint networks or whatever. But if you just do adjacent points, you'll get a plexus effect or whatever out of the box. You can go in the stuff and change the wire width. Maybe I need like, it's like smaller than a pixel or whatever, so it's never really gonna show me more stuff. But yeah, this is what I'm gonna use to start with. And I think we should have too many. Maybe something like that. It's kind of like a scaffolding. It's like a nice organized structure or something like that. So we have a bunch of lines, a bunch of points, and then we could start with a pop network. I need to get back to the first frame. And then here I'm just going to go in and turn off the guide. Let's get all the geometry. Everything else should be okay. One thing you can do if you don't want to do the expression in this impulse activation, you can use a microsolver. It will make you feel like a fancy, smart person. And you could do intermittent solve, and then you just do only once. And that is just a checkbox. And that you don't have to worry about any expressions or codes. And that basically just whatever's plugged in, it just runs once. You can also use this once per time step or whatever. This is nice if you want to like avoid sub-stepping. There's other uses or whatever for this, but sometimes it's nice just to use it. Basically, you're just sourcing the geometry on the first frame, and it won't ever check the inputs again. And then I'm just going to use this axis. And let's see what we have with some spin. There it goes. Just doing every stream this year is just going to be spinning particle systems. No, we might do something else with this, but that's interesting. Somewhat boring. We add maybe some variation to the geometry. Attribute noise float. By default, this is for p-scale, like the radius, but we can change this maybe to mass. And sometimes I like this alligator noise, somewhat nice. You can always visualize these with visualizers, or you can even use this color node and just do like ramp from attribute. Do it like that. You have some nice presets or whatever over here, just to see the range of everything. So you just want some clumping or kind of breakup or whatever of this stuff. Let's just try something like that. And then by default, none of these, we have some maybe that are less than 0, so they're getting stuck. We could change that if we just go to the minimum. So now none of them have a mass of 0 or less than 0. But it's not affecting the simulation at all. If you go to behavior, I think most of the pop nodes have ignore mass turned on, but if you actually want some breakup or different kind of more natural behavior, you can do it. Just turn off ignore mass, and it's a little bit more interesting. And then just to visualize these lines, I'm usually using the width attribute. And then at the top level here, let's just call this data disks. So at the top level here, if you go to miscellaneous, shade open curves, then you'll get, it's pretty simplistic. It's like a ribbon, but it's very fast for the viewport to draw or display the curves, and you get a little bit of lighting information or whatever. So this is my idea so far. I'm going to put this in the stream. And we'll do a scene share. If you guys want to just look at the starting thing. And then we'll keep going with this. So it should pop up in the chat, unless I missed something. Okay, there's one. So if you want to catch up with this starting point or where I am right now, is mass only to break up some extra forces, or does it also change something else? I mean, you could see it with this turned on, ignore mass. It doesn't really have too much of an effect with the pop solver. They do have this use mass turned on, but I don't think it drives, or I don't think it reads like basically the settings we have. Maybe if you're using target V or like some more advanced things, or maybe wind, or you're not using wind. But to my knowledge, the mass for particles, like they typically will ignore it unless it's zero. When you saw that when we had some that were zero, it would just get frozen or stuck or whatever. But with other point-based dynamics, like the RBD, packed RBD stuff, mass definitely plays more of a role in that stuff. And I don't know why they disable it for all cases with the particles. To me, it never made a lot of sense because it's like pretty useful way to have some variation in motion and behavior in particles. But yeah, I mean, it's just a checkbox. So you can use that. Just get the minimum clamp turned back on. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, I want to maybe do some more tests, just like default scenes, and try different mass values and see how it affects stuff. That's always a useful way just to see what's going on. Like if you just make a line, and this would be like your source, and you just shoot out particles and maybe just have the mass from 0 to 1 from the root to the tip. You can do like a little wind tunnel thing or something, just see the variation or see how it affects stuff. Whoop. All right. So this is somewhat interesting with this thing, but I'm going to try maybe mixing some of the pyro stuff with it. And I think they add this more simple. They added some of these simple setups, right? Just very quick. I like them a little bit better than the shelf tools because it actually will, you can use it in the same network, so it's pretty quick or whatever. And I think I might have even almost got like the same default shape that it starts me out with or whatever. So maybe just make this thinner. We're going to use this to push some of this stuff around. And I think they have some wind or directional movement or something like that. Is there a way to make the connecting lines have more structure? I don't think that their logic is built into the connect adjacent pieces. You could try some stuff like after they get connected. You could build your own stuff after. It's kind of a weird thing to test for maybe because like the information you're putting into it, it doesn't have any input angles, so you don't really know like the dominant axes or angles. Like you might have to do something with world space to make sure like it's aligning to this kind of grid somewhat. Like the easiest, it's never going to look that good, but like the easiest way to test that is just the direction you're heading. And yeah, I don't know, I think it's kind of hard to judge. I mean, if you're saying continuously involving connection, like you'd have to basically look at the direction it's moving in and then only bias connections towards that distance. I mean, it's definitely possible you can do some interesting stuff, but it's definitely like a bit of a science. You need to put on your lab coat and and get the Bunsen burners out. All right. So yeah, I just want to get rid of this directional. I think somewhere in this they have like a horizontal wind. The horizontal wind is definitely a nice idea when you're doing like a billowy smoke, like a chimney. But just in this case, I don't really want too much wind. So we have something happening there. And then I might just move this lower. So it's going to come up from behind, beneath our stuff there. Yeah, of course. I think you could do, yeah, it would be interesting. It's almost like a flocking system logic as well, where you want to check like the neighboring particles or connections and like do something based off of the neighbors. Like if you're interested in getting deeper into that, it's definitely some coding and some customization. But if you look up the Boids flocking and stuff, they have some similar logic and stuff built into that, where they're trying to have things adhere to their companions or like nearby neighbors or whatever. You might be able to get something like that, maybe some cross products, dot products. All right, so we can make this smaller. And then I think our voxel size here, we can get this down for some more detail. I guess they didn't link any of this stuff, just somewhat unfortunate, maybe. I think we might actually have to link it in a few other places. Maybe it's just a really small setting. Anyways. I don't know. I think I made it too small. Maybe in this case as well, we want the resizing padding not to be as much, because we have such a small voxel size now. And then I don't know what they've done here. They're moving the center around to try to preempt the wind. Maybe it doesn't like to, because it's like the sparse solver, maybe it doesn't want to start like right at the origin or whatever. I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. So we have some interesting stuff just happening with the velocity, and it's enough just to kind of set up the rest of the stuff and see what happens. So we're bringing in all this stuff, but we can just get the velocity. Maybe we want the density just for visual kind of visualization. And I'm just going to use this one to maybe enhance the visualization of our density. I feel like this volume isn't getting too it's like a Super Nintendo game. Let me increase that a little bit more. All right, something like that is just a little bit more detail. And we also have the velocity volumes, or the grid. I'm just going to use the split node here, and we'll just put the density in the main output, and then this extra output here. We use a null, and then this is just our velocities. If you want to, you can convert them to VDB, and then you can do the vector. Maybe they actually have options on here to do that. So we convert it to VDB, and then that will just make it one vector volume. You saw it kind of goes away or whatever. I think by default, the VDB vector volumes or velocities are like invisible. If you just use this primitive SOP as well, you could like actually do some kind of, I don't think you can actually ever really see the values, but you can at least maybe see the bounding box. Or you can make it invisible again. Let's just do that. And then we'll put it into this extra input. So now we have velocity information. And I'm going to try to use that instead of this axis force. So we have some more natural wind or interesting looking stuff. We'll put this second context. We'll just leave the other settings default just to see if it works. Maybe it doesn't work. All right, let's see what's happening here. I don't know if it's that update force method. It's kind of bizarre. I think I just wasn't letting it solve far enough. Okay, so that one's working okay. And let's try turning that off. And I'm just going to move this higher so we don't have to wait as long. And then just make some quick shape tweaks. This disturbance stuff, I think we don't need it for, we just want like broad scale motion. We don't really need little detail or swirls. September. I'm live. I'm still alive. And still Houdini. So we'll do maybe a smaller swirl scale. This is buoyancy stuff. I feel like somehow it's still getting a weird direction. Might be this noise here that they're adding in. Like by default, it was all getting those similar directions. And then I think I just need more source particles here to reduce that separation. You could probably as well just link that up if you want. Probably want it somewhere around the same size. All right, so should have better, a little bit better directionality or whatever. And then maybe this buoyancy, just a lot less. I don't want it all to really like blow. I want to see like some, so similar to what we were doing with the mass, just some breakup in this shape or whatever. So that's pretty cool. And I think we're still pretty small with our resolution. If we just want maybe even more nice things, enhanced, we have some nice, little bit more detail. I don't know. I as well just usually switch to this BFECC and where was the other one? So just this solving. I don't know why it doesn't give me the I just have to do that little arrow. All right. Rungakata. I feel like that gives you more, I don't know, it sharpens things up, or like definitely preserves smaller features in the smoke. And I don't know, might make this stuff just a little bit more interesting. So there's some stuff happening there. We could try tossing this spinning stuff back on as well and just mix and match them. Sudini easy to get into if I'm somewhat experienced with GLSL. I wouldn't say it's super similar. I think like GLSL or HLSL programming code is somewhat similar to the Vex language in here, this coding language. It's somewhat similar. I mean, they have the OpenCL code as well, but you can type in your own code, but I think if you're technical enough to be experienced with GLSL, Houdini should be somewhat easy. I go by Zach. The Pop Force was not affecting the mass yet. I had, or it should be, right? I think it had been. Let me just do like a sanity check here. So I think even without that, we get more spikes or like discontinuities. And this gives you maybe more of a more natural, organic look. We could also increase our particle layout here, and maybe we want something even more detailed to try to pick up some more interesting stuff in that simulation. Just try to resolve like more of the detail that's happening there. So I was going to try maybe mixing both of them, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit nicer to see like some of this structure still intact, while the other areas are blown away or dissolved. I think I don't even know if they still let you do it. The viscosity. I think we might need it. So this stuff here, it's people usually tell you not to use it because it will like remove or smooth detail from a pyro simulation. But if you really want like a drag behavior happening to the rest of your fluid, the viscosity is nice because it will kind of like localize this motion to specific areas. I'm just going to get rid of the buoyancy. And I think the turbulence can make it smaller. And just try a new seed value. Maybe we even need it smaller. The hell is going on here? It's not getting smaller. Oh, I know what it is. It's this stupid thing. So they're trying to, I don't know, maybe just even get rid of this. Is Mint more stable than Windows? I think it is. I mean, I never really have complete system failures or anything like that. I know with Windows I always just get the updates and stuff. I mean, Linux just in general is always should be much more stable than, that's why they use it with like servers and stuff, because like servers will have insane uptimes of like 80 days to servers running for 2 years without being rebooted. So unless you're doing really wild graphics card stuff, sometimes I reboot mine like after doing a bunch of rendering with Redshift. I think sometimes you need to flush it out or whatever, but in general, yeah, I would say it's a lot more stable than Windows. CG Nico, how's it going? So just get rid of that initialization of velocity. It's, I don't know, it's kind of a pain to be setting this stuff in more than one place. So I set that swirl scale too small because I was like examining the wrong factor. And then this pulse length can return that back to a longer pulse length, or like a slower evolution of the noise. And I might just increase the amplitude there. And I'm just gonna make this a little bit thicker. I was looking at that color mixing math that they added to it, but I didn't have any time to really mess around with it. But that would definitely be a interesting thing to add. I think that I was reading through some of the messages, like whatever library they're using for color mixing, I think it's open source or whatever, but it's definitely another lab coat science project. I think, I don't know, I mean, that maybe the developers, this side effects could just build that in as a better thing. Yeah, there's some just as well, I feel like doing the color mixing in a different space, you might just have better luck, but they were actually getting a lot closer to like Paint, like the way that Paint will actually like combine colors is a lot different. They hit the LUT. Yeah, I think it's definitely it's a really tricky thing to do, just because like, I don't know, every frame of a simulation values get interpolated, and there's always some blurring and smoothing of values and things like that. And it's just a very difficult thing to have like physically accurate. So I might get rid of a little bit of the viscosity. And let's just see what we get there. It's too low. Might have some interesting. Like, I feel like this is going to be a most interesting composition if a good portion of that is still intact. So just try a new random, and maybe you have to make this a little smaller, but just want to see a little bit more uniform, or like less unbalanced impact of some of this stuff. Something like that could be cool. You kind of see one area, another area, and another area. What if we Gaba Kadoosh? How's it going? I'm back. I return. So yeah, if you want to get up to date, I'm gonna go into the pop network here and do some dastardly stuff. So this stuff is getting a little too broken up. Like, we kind of have this issue here where one of these things will get pulled very far away from its neighbor or whatever. Like, you might be able to do this just blurring the velocity field. And I think with VDB they actually just call that smooth. So if we take a look here with the trail, where did he go? Volume trail, volume slice. Somehow I'm not getting the color. That will visualize everything. You could blur, or you could actually just maybe do the volume resample and like down res it. Let's make these voxels 5 times bigger, 10 times bigger. You just have a very broad general motion of stuff, and I don't even stripping out more detail. So maybe it seems like this is keeping the general structure of stuff in place a lot better than it was before. Como vai você? Where did I go? I'm in Portugal. I'm not that good at Portuguese yet, though. So, do the SOP solver. And I'm gonna try something even weirder with this. I'm actually just gonna switch this to velocity. And we'll plug this in here beneath it so we can use some SOP nodes. And then I'm going to use the attribute blur. And we try it maybe based off of connectivity. And blur the velocity. You might be able to do it in another mode with force, maybe. Let's see what happens with that. This so yeah, I think it's just setting force. We'll leave that at force, and then we'll leave this here. So I'm going to try a pretty big number just to see if it's working. NYXD. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm out of somewhat of a busy period with work right now. Looking to get back into the stream. I did. So yeah, we have this new schedule. Maybe I'll post a picture of it somewhere as well, but this new schedule. So I'm looking to get back into more of a regular basis with things. Streams, tips, content. But yeah. Let's just go with a really big value here. I have a feeling that we could actually visually debug it, and maybe that makes more sense. So if I go here into just a regular SOP network, I'm going to get rid of the lines. And we could paste this here. And let's just see what happens with setting it to V. So if it doesn't really have any effect, I think that maybe it's not really thinking that these lines are connected. One thing you could try is switching this to proximity. Still doesn't, maybe it's already like fully blurred. All right, this is maybe a brute force method. The attribute transfer, the Treched double plug it into itself, transfer it to itself. Oh, it's pin border points. Okay, so yeah, if you ever just want to do like before the attribute blur, people used to do a blur like this. It's a boomer. This is the boomer method. If you do max sample count, then this is like taking 10 of the neighbors and combining them or whatever. So yeah, that's the boomer way to blur things. It doesn't run on OpenCL, so it's a lot slower. That's why nobody really uses it anymore. Okay. Thank you for saving the day, Z8 editing. So yeah, it looks like this connectivity-based blur is still working. I just need that checkbox. Just having nightmares about checkboxes. It's like the life of a Houdini effects artist. Always worried you missed a toggle or something. Start maybe at 50. And yeah, I feel like just in general, there's so many times I've like spent hours troubleshooting or debugging stuff, and like it just ends up being a missed checkbox. So that's pretty interesting. We could try going even blurrier, just seeing what happens. I feel like this thing doesn't reset. You control, hold down control, click on the brain if you want to force like everything to reset. Maybe they fixed it in 19.5, but it's definitely like a bug they have with the SOP solver and that kind of stuff. That I think just the POP network in general doesn't always update as it should. So that's somewhat interesting. Maybe I'll switch this to proximity and just see if we get any different result. Basically, I just want to see less of this stuff like completely ripping apart. Like this is more interesting when you see deformations like a bulge or I don't know, something a little bit more like organic instead of just pure things ripping apart. Is just looks more like an error or an artifact or whatever. All right, I'm gonna do some more pyro tweaks. I think if we end up like blurring this so much anyways, I'm just gonna switch back down to a lower resolution. We could get rid of some of the blurring or the voxel scaling that we're doing, and we'll just have a quicker kind of testing or iteration stuff. Triple X vibes. Yes, I've returned. Thanks everyone for sticking with me in here. And yeah, I'm hoping to get back to a regular rhythm or schedule. I have some other ideas as well for just other topics. Maybe just like a simulation day or even just a Q&A stream or something like that. But maybe the schedule one day will be like this day is dedicated to this topic or this area of Houdini, just a rendering day or something like that. Stasha, good to see you back here. And I think this, maybe the post length, if we make that lower, we'll have some more like kind of swirling internal rolling or whatever. Another Vex day. Do you guys, you've seen I've been adding some, need to work on it more, but on this page here I've been putting some little, I need to add GIFs and record them and stuff like that, but I've been adding some little useful snippets and stuff like that to do twisted and demented things to the Houdini test geometry. But there's just a bunch of, I don't know, quick tools that, big learning Vex, it's always useful to take looks at condensed snippets of code and just see how other people are using it, and then you can I don't know, learn by example or whatever. All right. I think we could almost keep this stuff here as like a VDB, like a mesh it, and you put the two together or something like that, right? Let's just see what happens. Something's coming. Something's rising from beneath. Maybe we need more resolution in that case, but definitely everything will fit together. It's somewhat interesting. I don't know if we want to try maybe these other update modes. Maybe turning, let's get rid of this mass. I feel like that's counteracting all of the, uh-oh. No, it's not even moving at all. I feel like having some mass was almost destroying a little bit of okay, it was going. But I wanted the I was blurring everything because I wanted a cohesive motion. So the mass might have been causing those discontinuities that I was like fighting against my own stuff that I put in there. Then if this stuff is like so far out in front, I feel like you would either increase this air resistance or just increase like the overall velocity scale. Poof, it's too much. But this is something interesting now. Let's get rid of maybe a little bit of that voxel scaling, and maybe introduce a little bit more detail back into the actual simulation. Let's just see what we get here. Nothing, nothing good. All right, we need this a little bit bigger. Maybe a little bit slower with the pulse length. Maybe I shouldn't have made that so small. I think that shape is good, but we can just make it evolve more quickly now. I just want to break up chunks of that size, but in a more quick fashion or time. We just have these big pressure fronts now. The mushrooms need to get rid of the eggs. This could be something. Let's see what we've got here. Let's get rid of too much of the boost and reduce the blur a little bit. I think we want the blur maybe this thing still isn't updated. Maybe we'll try turning off that resample. And let's turn that on. Kind of back in the the infamous tweak zone. So I think one thing you sometimes want, if you really want to match that fluid closely, is adding a drag. Sometimes that prevents, sometimes it can prevent stuff from like getting out pushed so far ahead of everything. It's kind of just adding general resistance to your particles or to your simulation, so like it will more quickly, or it should more quickly, stop that stuff from getting shoved really far away. So I'm just gonna do, say, no more than 5 minutes of tweaks, just trying to get a little bit better shaping. I feel like that's the most boring part of these streams, is the endless tweaking of values. Okay, so we have less viscosity and less turbulence. We're just trying to get less like abrupt motion, less of those fists that are like bursting through. Yeah, more of a gradual dissolution of this shape, hopefully. And then I think overall, if we toss the buoyancy back in, this will kind of let us set like a floor. So like certain things will break this shape soon, and then other things will closely follow it. So that way we maybe have a little more control over it. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe, I don't know. I've psyched myself out, but I feel like some of the streams I'll go back and like just look at them for like editing purposes or review or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, I spent 2 hours changing the slider here. But it's just the life of a effects artist, I guess. So that buoyancy is definitely helping there, but I think it's just overall too much. But I think it's definitely useful to have, you can kind of expect, or you can count on it more, that the rest of this stuff will get poked through at a certain time. So just visually, you notice like one or two areas, and then you notice more of them. So we'll do that. I'm going to turn the blurring or that down sampling back on. And I think on this advection stuff, we can go higher. So I'm just checking it with the composition and stuff here, like how it looks with and without that meshed surface or whatever in there. I think it's cool, but it's just too much moving like straight up. Too much like a chimney. We could actually just put in a wrangle here, and let's just put like the velocity, the starting velocity equals the point position. And we might need, so this should basically point out from the origin. So the center of the scene is here. Basically, everything's flying away from that right now. And if we just take the y component of the velocity and set that to the absolute value of itself, then we'll just flip or mirror that one direction. Or you could even multiply that as well if you want to like tone it down. So this way we should have more outward starting velocities. If we really want to test it, we can multiply this by 10. You see we have a big outward gush, like a shock wave or something like that. And then I think the other thing we can do, let's just add more to this velocity. So we're going to do a cross product of the normalized position and just like an up vector. Let's multiply this by a big number. So this will give us like a spin or a twirl. So this is kind of like a trick with the cross product, is if you use like an outward direction and then whatever you want to spin around, like the point position, then whatever you want to spin around, you put that in as the second vector or the argument. You can do a vortex or something like that. So if we wanted to spin around the x axis, you can see we're adding that rotation or whatever. But yeah, in this case, we can get some maybe just a little bit more interesting kind of motion. Let's do 20% of the outward. Maybe when you just add enough of this spin, it's just overpowering stuff as well. So I did 20% of the original and 10% of the spin. the spin itself already has like a tendency to push stuff outwards, so you could even flip this stuff around to try to keep it pointing in. You're trying to counteract them or whatever. Get a little cyclone. Alright, I think overall this is just a little too much. We'll just do 10%. Of that. And I don't know, sometimes maybe this max octaves. Kick it up an octave. I think you get a little bit more breakup doing that. Alright, I said I was just going to do 5 minutes of this tweaking. I already did more than that. Yeah, I can run the resync. Oof, it's not looking good. I can run the resync after I end the stream. I just have one monitor right now, so I don't want to leak too much of the back end information. So I think this is just too I don't know, I mean that's a good shape. Let's do a little less. But yeah, we have Discord roles. If you're a subscriber on Twitch, it gets synced with the Discord, and you will get some insight, a little secret, some bonus content. So yeah, if you're interested, either Patreon or Twitch, you subscribe on either platform, you get a little extra Houdini. So let's take a look at this volume trail. And let's just see what happens with the smooth. I think the Gaussian. If you're just trying to do a general blur, that seems to be the best. Just trying to kind of spread out the motion of everything. See what we have. It's possible as I'm like blurring this stuff, I need to keep boosting it because it's like having a dampening effect on everything. Well, I might have just blurred it way too much. It's like molasses. Ooh. Look, it's moving through Jello. The blur operation is very similar to like the viscosity operation. So blurring the velocity field is almost exactly the same as applying viscosity to it. But I think it just depends whether you want to do it during the simulation or post simulation. Like, I think giving us more detail evolving during the simulation is better, and then blurring and smoothing things afterwards is overall it will be a better result. So this is definitely a little bit better here. You can kind of see some cohesive stuff sticking together like that. And I think I'm just going to dampen this down some and just try a new seed. So it's always you develop like a gambling addiction using Houdini. You just want to keep doing a new seed, just re-rolling that dice and seeing if you get a better output, a better result. Just at the roulette table, give me one more spin. I feel like that's definitely one of the more expert level things, is to know when you can keep trying new seeds and getting what you want versus when you have to like actually keep tweaking or going back and adjusting some things. Saw this happening in the middle. Getting too close. Have to boost the spin. Just try to boost some of the outwards direction that we have going into the source. Could be nice. I think we can get rid of a little bit of this smoothing and blurring. Just see what happens. It's probably going to be too powerful now. Just need to do this to compensate. Xanders, good to see you. Yeah, I'm back. I did set up somewhat of a schedule. Hopefully, depending on your time zone, it will work out. But yeah, basically Friday, for me, it will be a late night happy hour pre-game stream situation. Every time Houdini crashes, you do a shot. And Wednesday is or Thursday. Is this Thursday? Is it Thursday or Tuesday? Dos dias. Tuesday. So Tuesday is the earliest one if you're on the West Coast of the US. Or any of the Americas, but yeah, hopefully it works for people. We'll try it out for a little bit and see what happens. I don't know. I think this is too chaotic. I think we're in the curse of the tweak zone. Maybe it was this octaves. Sometimes that additional octave, you just get things too fuzzy. That additional octave will basically make your turbulence more rough, but if you're not looking for like tons of detail, or you're not running your simulation at really high voxel sizes, sometimes it just blurs everything. Marius, thank you for the prime. So yeah, if you're not if you're new, you can use your Twitch Prime to subscribe to me, and I'll resync the Discord roles, and you'll get a complete access to all of this extra content, Houdini scene files, tips, tricks, cheat codes. You'll have all the cheat codes for Houdini. I think I'm forgetting most of them right now. So this might have just gotten too slow. It's getting close. It's just if you see too much of these things stretching out too far like that, poof, you can increase this, decrease the pulse length to increase like the time that the velocity will update, or the turbulence will update, and hopefully that will get rid of some of those super flyaway kind of things. But I think this could be close to what we want. The AI art, I think some of it's cool. Some of it almost looks, definitely it still has kind of a look to it. But just in terms of like trying out ideas, thinking about ideas or concepts, it's a nice tool. Oof, I don't know about that. These things are looking too round. But yeah, I don't know, I forget the name of it. There's like two of them that a lot of people are using. But yeah, one of them, yeah, I think Midjourney, everything that's made with it looks like a macro camera, or like it definitely, like the main one is just this is pretty nice here. Could be. It definitely, like, even the composition, everything's like you took it with a macro camera. The vignette, there's like a vignette to it or something. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily too threatening for Houdini people. I feel like concept artists or like 2D artists for sure are a little bit challenged by it, but in general, if you're a Photoshop artist or you're good with that stuff, you're always looking for other elements and like layering them and combining them. So in general, I mean, I don't think that someone was saying a joke that it won't for it to take our jobs, the client would have to actually describe accurately what they want so that we're okay. So I think this is starting to be a little bit better. I don't know if maybe just some of this stuff here is stripping away too much detail. Artbreeder and Disco Diffusion. Artbreeder was pretty big like 2 or 3 years ago. I remember trying it out definitely 2 years ago, and it's pretty good. I mean, I don't know. Overall, I think I'm just mainly worried that like it will continue to make everything just look almost more uniform or similar. Like if people aren't using it right and they're just using it to save money, then we'll just get a bunch of stuff that looks the same. All right, so I think this drag was a bad move to reduce it so low. That's pretty cool. The other thing, I don't know if I really want to do it, but if you guys want to play around with it, if you put like a resample in here, this is like going to be the ultimate way to preserve detail. So in these lines, as things happen, it will start to add more geometry to the instead of just being a single line segment, it will have some internal stuff, so you'll be able to resolve more of the detail of the velocity field. I'm not sure if it could be cool because you're going from like this rigid structure to more curved fluids. Could be nice. But yeah, I mean, in terms of that AI art stuff, I think with Houdini being an effects artist, like there's so much stuff that needs to happen in terms of optimizing data and working with it efficiently and all that stuff that people will almost always need like an effects artist to do like a destruction simulation or like anything like that, it's pretty far off that stuff will replace people. If anything, I feel like it's almost speeding up the adoption of Houdini because people are just trying to consolidate parts of the pipeline, like eliminating, if you can do you could almost use like Midjourney to make an asset, project it onto some geometry in 3D and like use that in Houdini as like a starting point for a effect or a scene or something like that. And you're kind of cutting out like the layout department, look dev department, and like a bunch of other things. But in terms of actually getting like a movie, getting some, I don't know, like those, the AI stuff is definitely just has a look to it where it's like moving through different images in the tensor space or whatever. So it's like pretty obvious that there's like parameterization and there's things are just warping in that look of like blending. I don't know. It's an interesting effect to blend motion like that or to interpolate between things, but it definitely has a feel to it that you definitely after you're conditioned to know what it is, like you pick it up, it's someone's just moving through the parameter space or whatever. Swizzle XYZ. I hope you're having some lovely swizzles this morning. I haven't swizzled any vectors over here myself yet. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe this curved line stuff, maybe it's a little bit better. I didn't want to do too much of it because I felt like it would, I don't know, I wanted to keep like a rigid structure to everything, but at the same time it's almost nice to have some contrast between straight lines and then more organic curved stuff for like an interesting composition. gonna turn off that buoyancy again, and let's try to spread out the velocity more. So I feel like everything was still coming just directly up towards us at the start. So maybe this way we can get more interesting structures evolving and shaping up instead of just like big pressure fronts moving right at us. This back, looking at it from underneath, is almost more interesting as well. Yeah, I don't know. Just go back to the casino, the digital seed casino. Turn that visualization back on. All right, so instead of the buoyancy, I'm just going to add some initial velocity to the y component. I kind of just want like a little push, but not everlasting chimney. Could have been a little too powerful, but we'll see. This could be. I don't know, I think that could be kind of nice. I think we just need to go back here and amp that up a little bit. Let's see what we have here. I'm at the gambling stage where you've lost all your money and you're just losing your valuables. Come on, one more spin. Yeah, I mean, I think that in general, it's just pretty far off in terms of like going from pictures to actually like meshes or like other types of computer graphics information. It's pretty far off, it seems like. I'd worked at a AI startup a couple years ago, like generating data sets for them to train their model off of. And it's definitely like, I don't know, it's pretty far off for actually being applicable to 3D or like other use cases, I would say. I think that this kind of style transfer of like, make me some Rothkos, or make me some stuff in the style of Van Gogh, like just make me some painterly looking stuff. It's kind of the lowest hanging fruit or whatever. But in terms of actually replacing, I mean, maybe like Roto, even Roto, like you'd have to train it on new data sets and stuff all the time. Like, I think it's still somewhat far off in that regard. Far enough off that I don't think it has time. I mean, just even looking at like self-driving cars, can't even train it to avoid a traffic cone. Yeah, I mean, all my money's currently in political bets, but I might need to diversify my betting portfolio into betting against some of these algorithms. The like the Deep Blue, I think there's some documentaries and stuff about that, but that's definitely an interesting thing to look at. When they were doing the chess masters, trying to compete against the computer, like just in terms of suspense. Like I don't know, to be alive during that time, it must have been pretty interesting. Like, because I feel like it happened pretty quick from reading about that stuff, where like the computer was so slow it was never going to catch them, and then the next year, like chess masters weren't even bothering competing against computers or whatever, and they were like doing all kinds of weird moves and strategies that people hadn't thought of before or whatever. All right, let's just kind of going the other way now because we did the resample in the simulation. I'm going to try to do some moves here to introduce more detail. So let's do smaller swirl size, higher frequency, more roughness as well. That should give us higher frequency. And then I just disabled the viscosity. So now we're getting some, this is more closer to what I had in my mind. Just a gradual breakup like that. Let's take a look here at more of the outward rotation. Just a nice spin. Just go for a Sunday spin. Was it? It's like this. There's a news program called like the No Spin Zone or something. This is the McLaughlin Group. Eleanor, this. You're watching the McLaughlin Group. Oh, this is pretty nice. So that has like a PBS. It would be nice if it was like a little bit more staggered. The impact of everything is almost too immediate. I don't know if that's the pulse length. If we reduce that. Public affairs. Got any boomers in the chat? Got any McLaughlins in the chat? Could you do an ATAN too? I mean, that would definitely be a better idea to have the noise operating in like a polar space. Um, but I think it's going to be too dastardly to try to go in and modify this just for a quick stream like this. If it was like a hero effect that you needed to do, it would make more sense to go in and customize stuff. But for this is, I'm almost working more like a you might have a discontinuity. I mean, you would need people have done the curl noise and stuff like that in actual like giving it polar coordinates or whatever, and you can set it up, but it's definitely a task. I think if anything, yeah, I would just want to go with like the bigger swirl size and just dampen my initial velocity. Yeah, I guess if we're at the origin, you could mask. You could do some like directional based mask or something like that, but I'm hoping I'm kind of I feel like the classic mistake I'm making is just not spending enough time with the actual source. Like if you just did some particles or modeled some stuff with geometry, bish bash bosh, you would have it in a second. But I feel like it's I don't know, with Houdini or whatever, just me in general, I always have a tendency to want to get just like adjust these parameters, adjust a seed, you do it, you get it looking better. But in general, like if you're really trying to hit notes or get timing stuff right, just modeling some geometry or hand animating some stuff is the way to go. But I think this is starting to be pretty good. Char 2971, thank you for the prime. I never know whether that's care, like you're doing an abbreviation of character or char. There's one place I was working at and all the layout geometry would be prefixed with like set, building, or character char. And just some of the Houdini people I worked with would import it with Alembic or whatever and be like, what is it? Char, blah, blah, blah. All the good stuff happens at the source. Yeah, in general, a lot of the films are like more experienced effects artists and stuff like that, like just solving or doing what you need to do at the source makes things a lot easier. One of the things I could have done more quickly or whatever was like, could have done a noise based off of Atantu or the radial thing, but just manipulating or masking density so that it wasn't a circle the whole time. That would have definitely been a much better move. But I think this is going to be okay for what we want to do. I don't know if the other thing is maybe just turning off some of the cooling rate. and like dissipation. I think that was another thing that was causing it to like just end, like it would just get this inherited momentum because you have the cooling temperature and the density turning off over time. Like those, even though that's just a visual effect of like density, this turbulence field is masked. It's like being controlled by some of that stuff. So turning that down will have an effect for sure. But I think I'm getting ready to end the simulation stage. I don't know, try to get a quick render out and see what happens. Just give me a couple more seeds, a couple more spins. Let's just see what happens without this resample. I don't know, I feel like that could be interesting. I don't know. Let's leave it on for now. All right, I'm just gonna go back here. Just give me one more random. So this is what I'm saying, like if I just took the time, animate some, even just spheres like expanding or something like that, like you have a lot better opportunity to art direct some more interesting timing, and you're not relying on the randoms. I always have this this weird like I don't know what you would call it, almost like a vision, like someone who just sets up these like wild scenes where it's so dependent on like specific randoms. Like if you change any random in his scene, it's just like everything looks completely shit. But like he's spent so long finding these like specific randoms that give you an amazing result. Source from Point Smokeson. Yeah, that DOP OpenCL stuff probably would be good in this case. I just didn't want to spend a ton of time like setting it up. But I don't know, I think that this composition here could be nice. The viewport, what are they doing? Get it together, guys. We can't do everything here with this like super wide angle. This is the one Houdini viewport. Everything's always this like 90-degree All right. Maybe just have that longer one at the top. Ding, ding, ding. I don't know. I'm at this anamorphic. I don't know if we need it for this composition. Go into the 1:1 aspect ratio. All right. Yeah, I think that this, having the resampling definitely makes it just a little bit less like a high school project. Just a little bit fancier, maybe. The other things to play with, maybe, if you disable like this extrusion, you just leave this as like a flat disk. That could be another interesting, just simplifying things, right? I feel like almost having the 3D stacked stuff was maybe just visually complex. Let's get our pizzas in a line here. I think it was pretty cool where it was. Could do maybe some crazy number of rows. This is kind of interesting. It's almost like a fabric. Someone's knitted. Someone stitched this stuff together. Could be interesting. Maybe instead of all these duplications, just add some, just shrink it in. Let's just do one more. I think we definitely want to offset the copies in height. Thank you, Swizzle. I don't know, I feel like you spend all this time getting the simulation looking good and just do that's why working with the source makes more sense, because it's just so much quicker to work with SOPs. You don't have to wait 5 minutes every time you make a change. So yeah, the last thing I was doing was just playing around with its depth here. So visually, this will give you like a different behavior for, if you leave them all at the plane, they will all be synced up or whatever, but I think this way we have more interesting, visually there's like a little delay before the other ones get touched. Yeah, you could offset the rotation. Kind of seeing what you're saying, but I don't know. I do kind of like this somewhat cohesion. that they have, but it's just kind of like delayed in time. How they kind of coalesce together. What if we just try less lines? It's a little bit different. Some of these are, you can get some cool patterns just by changing some of the source parameters and stuff like that. Yeah, I feel like it looks like a lot like sensors or like solar panels, a lot of that kind of stuff. All right, I think that's looking okay. I'm probably going to stick with Redshift here. I was looking into Karma for a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like definitely for quick streams and stuff like this, it's hard to dial it in so quickly. We'll try this strip. Then by default with Redshift, it's a little bit of a gotcha, but you just need to rename the width to p-scale. Yeah, I mean, there's interesting stuff with Karma. I think Solaris, like the whole framework for being able to render in multiple things is to me what's the most interesting. But it's definitely nice to be able to use Karma because it's like included with Houdini, and I don't know. I haven't heard of too many studios using it, but it's definitely it's definitely a useful skill to have. All right, let's put in some lights. Oof. Got all these little tabs. All right, let's maybe save, and then we'll see if it works. If you guys want to get up to date, might have pushed it twice. You can grab that. Let's take a look. See if we get anything. Oof. Don't we have devices? I think I need to release. I don't know why my thing is like broken. All right, let me Alright, I'm back. For whatever reason, when Maxon updated their license utility on Linux, I need to keep like going on, logging in and releasing the thing manually or whatever. It's a pain. I feel like just in general, their scheme, the new Maxon like subscription license thing is not. I don't know. The old way worked fine. I don't know why they switched to this subscription model. All right, what's going on here? Oof. All right, we had too many attributes to begin with. We don't really need any of them, so you can just keep the position. And then we should be good. All right. Look at that. Ooh. I don't know. Maybe we don't. It has some HDRIs, but I feel like it makes just moving the scene file around a pain. No, I mean, I don't know, like they were supposed to upgrade it to Houdini. They were I mean, it's still supposed to be like node locked, but whenever I reboot my computer, I need to like unassign it. It doesn't automate. I don't know, it's just, I've been thinking about switching to Octane here. I'm tempted. I don't know, I'm close to being done with Redshift. Alright, so we need some kind of fill, light. Oof. Didn't mean to do that. So we need like just a bigger light that's going to be more like a fill. So just do it from the other side. And yeah, I mean, Redshift is nice because it's just quick to work with and gives you good results, but it's kind of all that it's good for. Like, it's not that cheap compared to other renders, and there's definitely a good amount of like hacks and stuff like that that you need to keep up with, and just in general, I'd be happy to go to a different renderer if something else nice comes along. I feel like side effects is close with Karma, but just having more of like a render post view. Like I know in Lops you can add some, I don't know, it might just be similar to here, like depth of field and environment fog, but we need our photographic exposure. Come on, guys. There's Canadians up there to give us some more post effects. Alright, I think this can get brighter. I feel like this is the main reason I'm using Redshift, is just because you can go in here and just punch in values, put the curves in, like If you could do this in Karma. I don't know. I mean, I just like cutting out that loop of going, like saving an image, going into Photoshop or going into Nuke, just being able to click one button, change a value, like to work quickly. I feel like you need that level of feedback just to get something that looks more photographic, like instead of something from the 1920s, 1970s. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just the post effects. I just need the Instagram filters. That's pretty good. I don't know. I mean, that one thing that's like breaking the frame so quickly. You might need to re-roll these dice. Once I get close. Yeah, it's starting to feel a little bit better there. Maybe we do just add some subtle layering. We'll have a layer that sits on top. All right, that's a little bit better. From Zenith to Horizon, I don't know if I could do that all in one animation. You're talking about going from here, ding, ding, ding. I think you could definitely cut into some detailed starting if you did some cuts and edits and stuff like that. From the top, the only thing I was thinking is like a slow clockwise or counterclockwise. I don't know, I feel like these long lens shots, like I don't know. I'm not the best cinematographer though. I'm just gonna try. Let's get into these. Ooh, doesn't let you get into these negative numbers. What the hell is going on? Let me get into these negative numbers, guys. So I'm just gonna try one or two more seeds to see if we get a little bit better of a composition. Yeah, I've been trying to watch some stuff on Behance and stuff like that. Negatives are imaginary. I don't know, I feel like this seed parameter is just linked to like a noise offset. I usually like to just go try out some of the negative numbers, see what's going on in the upside down. These are a little bit better. Could be. I'll just do some quick reduce the spin. Reduce some of that outward motion. I feel like a good amount of Houdini artists have like somewhat religions or like little rituals that they do with the random numbers. So certain people only like to stay between like -10 and 10, or some people go up into the hundreds, thousands range or something like that. All right, we'll put a little bit more like upwards direction. We'll try to move stuff back closer to the center. So just trying to keep this composition more contained or whatever. All right, what's going on with this? Shape. Might just be too much turbulence. What's going on here? It's not even hitting. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like some people are superstitious with their numbers. I was kind of doing that. Sometimes I was setting all my seed to 666. Summon the beast. There's one guy that I worked with that was he's like a CG supervisor, and he would always submit his jobs to the farm as the priority would be 666. All right, let's boost this bell. Yeah, I think it depends what I think it was a deadline facility, so it was higher numbers are actually higher priority, but some places I've worked at they set it up so it's the opposite or whatever, like 0. And then if you're starting out at a new place, you don't know whether 0 is low or super low priority or super high. Emergency. All right. Yeah, you might as well put it to max. He just wanted other people on that farm to see his satanic numbers or numerology. He's doing. You can have your whole like a tarot card situation, but just for effects artists, for picking their the world's best random number. I don't know if we're really going to be able to use that surface, but the shape is it's a little interesting. View dependencies on the turbulence seed. Some of these nodes they make, like, I know they're trying to do a lot, but I don't know, at some point they just don't need, they're overcomplicating things. I feel like some of the structure of it, like it just makes it too intimidating to I don't know, maybe that's their intention. Carl Van Jokel, how's it going? Good to see you. This could be interesting. But yeah, I mean, if we just do this, what was I doing? The billow? It's nice to have these things pre-built, but what's all this now? Come on. This one isn't too bad, but so yeah, I think that if you dig into it, basically I don't even know what's going on here. Oh, so it's even on top of this. All right. So this should be the only place that it's really directly linked. I feel like I've investigated this before, but getting lost in the sauce here. All right, here it is. This is like the only thing they should be changing, and it's no. So it should be the seed. It should be the offset. All right, I'm just gonna give up. I mean, that's kind of, there's no reason they need this stuff to be so, so here they're doing the position with the time offset, they're putting it into a vector 4, and that's all they're changing. Then this offset here is being set with a parameter. So I think that they've just linked it directly here. Right? Like that's, I don't know, I mean, to me that's not what you want, is just the same value being used. Come on. Let us at least get into the negative numbers. All right. Might need to flip this one around. Jeff Light is, he definitely is the keeper of the scrolls when it comes to DApps. But yeah, I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're only giving you one kind of dimension of the stuff to offset. The other thing that, like, I've wanted to do before is that sometimes you want to actually animate the offset of the noise, but because whenever they did do this simplification, like rewrote all of the noise settings instead of frequency to be swirl and all that, it was a frustrating move. But anyways, this composition is looking better. I did another dice roll there, and I think we could be close to where we want for today. Things are feeling a little bit more balanced. Maybe we want this main light. These shadows are definitely a little bit too crisp. Just make it a little bit bigger. Ooh, blinded myself. Might have been too big. The copy stamp, it's definitely useful. I mean, let's just do this as a quick render. This is where I'm probably going to leave this one for the topic today. You guys want the file, you can grab it there. So we'll do a quick bing 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 render. I think that progressive, it always helps you speed it up a little bit. We'll just leave this at the full range. So I mean, I could show you guys what I mean. Like, there's definitely one or two cases where that copy to points is ding ding. That copy to points is, it's kind of like you guys ever played this 6 golden coins? Mario would hit this bell at the end of every level. Ding ding ding. I don't know where it is, but I'm getting lost. All right. Got some issues here with maybe our normals. The orientation is flipping. We'll leave it be for right now. So let's just say you have a grid, and then maybe you want a font SOP, like visualization of these point numbers. To me, the quickest way you do this is with the copy to points. To push. Copy to point. E to push. Reverse. All right, so we have fonts happening at every point. So yeah, if you have a string attribute, let's just say we want to know like the area of these faces. So we'll do this extract centroid, set this to primitives to get the face centers. and we'll do measure here. So each face has its area. Maybe we can do a Voronoi fracture or something later to make that unique, but for right now we'll just set it up like this. So we have our face centers. When we convert to points, we want to keep the area. So we have a float attribute. I don't think it's about to rain. Ding ding. Ding ding ding. I don't see any. Chuva. Tenguada Chuva? I didn't see it. So we just want this font to display. First thing we can do is probably turn off this rotation, or maybe we just need to spin the original geometry so it's facing up. All right, so we do that. We'll just set this to a single letter for right now. So we have this floating point attribute, and we just want to switch that to a string. So I think the quickest way to do that here, we'll call this name, string name. If you do the I to A, integer to string function. Oof. So I think I spelled it wrong, and then I think in this case maybe we want this like maybe it's the sprint. Okay, so let's just do this. I to A, and then we'll just multiply this by 100. So we're like stripping some extra decimals. So we'll keep like 4 significant figures or whatever. We have that, and then you on your copy to points, we don't want that. We want the stamp, the boomer node. And then we can do stamp inputs, and then all you have to do is just put in name, and here you can do stamps, copy 1, name, maybe that's it. Oof. So you just need the default value if it doesn't have anything. So now we're getting the actual string. We could move these smaller. So we have the values. So we multiply them by 1000 here. I don't know if here you can divide. Oof. I think it doesn't like it. So there's a sprint f function that I think we can use. I always forget the syntax with that one. I don't know, I think we should have done maybe a little bit rotation that was being recommended to me earlier. Could have made stuff a little bit more interesting. Alright, so you do %0. I think we can just do like this. D. Surgeon, yeah, Surgeon, he does a good job with that organic looking stuff. I think he quite often he'll blur the position after the connections, and you get really good like connections and stretching and stuff like that. Can I use this, maybe the F trim? All right, we'll do flat. All right, I'm doing too much there. There is a way to strip those extra decimals off if you want, but I'm just gonna leave it like that for right now. Maybe it's like, ooh. Ooh, that was way too many. All right, so I'm not gonna try to do it right now. But yeah, I mean, just getting the font to actually display like a string or some numbers or something, like, to me it's the easiest way, still using that copy stamp. So yeah, the last thing, if we just want to make that look a little bit more interesting, just scatter some points. Voronoi. Bing, bing, bing. Don't need the interior. Need just do the divide. So this will give us like a single primitive per connected. So yeah, anytime building these visualizations, I feel like just doing it with the copy stamp is a useful way to do it. I mean, it's probably slower technically what's happening, but in terms of how long it takes to set up, it can be quicker than the for loop or whatever. A little bit of a boomer move, but I'll allow it. It's not terrible. I think you might be able to speed it up a little bit if you turn off the LOD stuff. It's not too bad. But yeah, I don't know, the copy stamp still has a little bit of purpose maybe, but I was sad to see it go when they hit it or depreciated it with 19.5. All right, so yeah, this is where we are today. I did the scene file earlier. Some other parts of this could be better, I think, but overall, interesting idea. Some cool mishmash of techniques and ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, this is going to be where we leave it today. We have the new schedule. Almost rebooted my computer. New schedule going forward. So yeah, I'll be back on Tuesday. Bing bing. And on Friday as well. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your Sunday if you're west of me, or enjoy the evening if you're east of me. And yeah, I'll be back on Tuesday. All right, take it easy, guys.